In the last video, we talked about how to create the shape in the top left. In this video, we're going to be looking at the shape in the center right. The shape consists of a rectangular prism base with a round roof top, a cylinder punched through the middle, and this little doorway feature, which is created by using a rectangular prism and a round roof combined. Taking the measurements off of our screen and off of the website, we can start to recreate these basic shapes in TinkerCAD. So please double check the website if you need any of these numbers. Going into TinkerCAD, we can start by creating our rectangular base and our round roof top. This will give us the majority of the shape that we need before we punch out or subtract the pieces that we need to cut away. The cylinder itself, one thing you can do, and it can be a lot easier now that we're building with multiple shapes, instead of dragging the cylinder onto the page by itself, like I have, you can actually take the cylinder and drag it right onto the face, and you can see it automatically rotates. And this can be quite useful when you're trying to line things up. You can see that as I hover on the shape, the cylinder rotates using the program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it right here, and I'm going to modify its dimensions to be 20 by 20. Luckily it already is. And then I'm going to use the arrow to sink the cylinder into the shape. Now the important part is to make sure the cylinder has the proper height. So I'm going to drop back into the picture and count the isometric dots up to the bottom of the cylinder. So it is 10, 20, 30 millimeters to the bottom of that cylinder. So if I go back into TinkerCAD, I should be able to place it there, and now I can use my arrow, and you can see that the height shows up on the right. So I can just set that to 30, and I'll know that it's all lined up. What I would then want to do is make sure it is aligned in the center of the axis of symmetry, and you can see right now this cylinder is a little bit to the right. So I will select the three objects, use my align tool, and I'll center them on this center axis. Now that I'm happy with it, I'll make sure the cylinder is appearing through both sides, and it is. I will group them together and punch that top keyhole through. So I can delete this cylinder because we don't need it anymore. Now what I need to do is create that little doorway. That little doorway, if we go back to the image, is 10 high by 20 wide, and then the round roof is 10 high by 20 wide. So coming into TinkerCAD, I can recreate those shapes. Remember, when you drag out a shape, you can change its material type. We're going to switch it to be a hole. And then what we'll do is we'll bring these together. I will use the little arrow to decrease its height. And I know that it's 10 high, so as long as I get 10 on the right hand side there, which I do, I know those shapes are touching. What I'll then do is select those two hole shapes and group them. And then what I'll do is I'll select the hole and the main composite shape, and I'll use the align tool again to bring the objects together. Using this center axis align, we can see that'll line up the shapes in that way. And then we should bring the object to the front face. And then you can see it sort of has that Z indexing that we talked about in a prior class. That means the objects occupy the same space. You can see the pattern exists on both sides of the shape, and that means that they are lined up perfectly. So taking this shape, if I group it, it'll cut through, and then that keyhole shape or that little arch will mirror what we see in our picture here. So hopefully these quick little examples will help you with the task in class. Please grab the handout, challenge yourself with some of the objects on the front page of the isometric reference drawings, and if you find those are too easy, flip over and try some of the harder mechanical drawings. Good luck.